Welcome back to our final segment of the night. Following the assassination of Charlie Kirk, the Trump administration is trying to buckle down on radical leftist groups who foment violence and rioting. For example, as we talked about earlier in the show, President Trump's announcement of designating Antifa as a domestic terrorist group and investigating anyone who is funding these organizations. And one alleged connection to all of the protests that we've seen throughout the country in recent years is billionaire George Soros and his reported funding through his Open Societies Foundation. And now one watchdog group is calling him out on it. Joining me now is the chairman of that group, the National Legal and Policy Center, Peter Flaherty. Peter, thanks so much for being here.
Hi, Amanda.
All right, tell us what you guys are doing, because I think that there are millions of Americans who are ready to just shut it down.
Well, I don't know about shutting it down, but last week we sent a letter to Alex Soros, who chairs the Soros Foundation. Daddy Soros put his son in charge of it a couple of years ago. And we made a very simple request that the Open Society Foundations, so-called, end their financial support for two groups in particular, Indivisible and MoveOn. These are the primary organizers of these nationwide campaigns. We've seen the messaging from both the organizers and the participants is always that Trump is a fascist, he's a Hitler, his supporters are extremists and white supremacists. And this kind of messaging has been persistent. And we've seen it in their so-called No Kings protest days, and we've seen it during the Tesla takedown protests, which was accompanied by all the violence, the arson, the vandalism of Teslas, and so forth. So the point I would make to Alex Soros is, if you don't want the federal government poring over your books, why don't you do the socially responsible thing and end support for these two groups?
Is there a way that we can legally kick their influence out of the country?
Well, the president can do some things that he's not done yet. One of them is to appoint an effective commissioner of the IRS. He appointed a former congressman named Billy Long. He lasted 2 months. The post is presently vacant. The tax-exempt division of the IRS, which has oversight of groups like Soros' Foundation, is largely ineffective. There's no revenue in it usually for the IRS, so it's been neglected over the years. The last effective head of the tax-exempt division we had was Lois Lerner, and she was effective for all the wrong reasons. Yeah. President Trump should appoint an IRS commissioner who's committed to even-handed application of the law. We believe that there are many, many violations of the tax-exempt status of the groups that George Soros is funding.
Yeah. I mean, look, I get that is not a revenue earner for the United States of America, but I would categorize this under national security, and I think that national security is pretty valuable, whether it's in dollars and cents or human lives.
Well, that's right. And look at how this spending is tearing our country apart. The Charlie Kirk assassination apparently had no impact on Indivisible or MoveOn. In fact, they're doubling down. They've planned yet another national day of protest. It'll be number 11 for October 18th. And if you look at their press releases and emails over the last few days, they haven't tempered their message at all. So but we can all as Americans demand that Soros act like a citizen and do the decent and socially responsible thing and stop funding this division and madness.
Yeah. For years and years, I was watching the multiple seasons that Leah Remini did about Scientology, and she talked ad nauseum about the impact that taking away their tax-exempt status, the effect that would have. I imagine it's the same thing with this. I mean, it would ultimately, it would go a long way in destroying them, right?
Well, look at all these tax-exempt groups that are taking part in operations to tip off illegal aliens to impending raids by ICE. There's no way you can argue that that's a tax-exempt activity. And it's being done in many parts of the country, but particularly in LA, where they even have a coalition of 24 tax-exempt groups who are part of this network to alert illegal aliens to law enforcement actions.
Unbelievable. I mean, God, it feels so criminal, just unbelievable. Chairman of the National Legal and Policy Center, Peter Flaherty, always a pleasure having you here, sir. Thank you so much for this, and thank you for the good work that your organization is doing.
You bet, Amanda. Thank you.
Absolutely. All right, everybody. That's going to do it for us tonight. But tomorrow night, I will be back here, and I'm going to wrap up the show solo without my esteemed co-host, John Solomon. But he's going to be back right there in that chair next to me on Monday. So tune in again tomorrow night at 6 p.m. Eastern, and we will see you then. Bye.